Pneumatic Training Panel, INO-8747 Exercise Number 1.
Welcome to this module Pneumatic Training Panel, INO-8747 Exercise Number 1.
By the end of this module, you will be able, using a circuit diagram, to build a circuit made up of a cylinder controlled by 2 push buttons. You will be able to connect the circuit and confirm that it works correctly.
Let's begin by describing the cycle diagram for this application.
When the PB1 button is pressed, the cylinder rod extends, completes its full stroke and then remains in the extended position. When the PB2 button is pressed, the cylinder rod retracts, completes its full stroke and then remains in the retracted position.
In the following stage, you will need to determine which pneumatic circuit corresponds with this diagram.
Complete the circuit using the correct components in order to match the cycle diagram which was previously described.
Take a detailed look at how this application's pneumatic circuit works. Initially, the cylinder is in the retracted position. By pressing the button, PB1, the air is sent to the right pilot valve of the supply valve, changing its status. The air is then supplied to the head end port of the cylinder, while the rod end port becomes an exhaust. The cylinder rod extends and completes its full stroke. You can see that when the button, PB1, is released, this neither changes the status of the supply valve nor stops the cylinder. By pressing the button, PB2, the air is sent to the left pilot valve of the supply valve, changing its status. The air is then supplied to the rod end port of the cylinder, while the head end port becomes an exhaust. The cylinder rod retracts and completes its full stroke. You can also see here that when the button, PB2, is released, this neither changes the status of the supply valve nor stops the cylinder.
Before handling, what precautions must be followed?
Regarding the quality of the compressed air, the supply pressure must be 0.4 megapascal or more. You must use non-lubricated air. The supply air must be purged of all contaminants, water, oil, or other condensates. Be sure to have an upstream filter for the training panel's regulator. When handling the training panel, keep the pressure relief valve at the exhaust position during the construction or disassembly phases of the circuit. Before supplying a cylinder, verify that none of the ports are open, that all of the tubes are connected, and that nothing is impeding the movement of the cylinder. Keep your hands away from the cylinders while they are moving. Now that you understand how the pneumatic circuit works, let's move on to its practical implementation.
Start by connecting the components highlighted in red on the photograph. Following the pneumatic circuit, we recommend that you use
the blue tube for the air supply. The green tube is for the circuit to extend the cylinder rod. And the yellow tube is for the circuit to retract the cylinder rod.
Then adjust the speed controllers by opening them to turns from their closed positions. Finally, adjust the pressure of the regulator to 0.3 megapascal. You can now open the pressure relief valve by turning it to the supply position. Remember to keep your hands away from the moving rod.
Press the green button, PB1, and watch what happens. Once the first movement has been completed, press the red button, PB2, and watch what happens. You can repeat this operation several times.
When you have finished, close the pressure relief valve by turning it to the exhaust position and then go to the quiz on the next slide. Having made the circuit work, which of the following statements are correct? Base your answers on your observations.
If you have completed the circuit correctly, these are the results that you should expect. The blue tube is used for the air supply, so, starting from the pressure relief valve, we supply air to port 1P of the supply valve, then to the in ports of the green and red buttons. The green tube is used to extend the cylinder rod, so, it connects the green buttons, out, port to the left pilot valve of the supply valve, then exits the port, 4A, to supply the head end port of the cylinder. Finally, the yellow tube is used to retract the cylinder rod. It connects the red buttons, out, port to the right pilot valve of the supply valve, then exits the port, 2B, to supply the rod end port of the cylinder. The speed controllers are adjusted by opening them 2 turns from their closed positions. The pressure of the regulator is adjusted to 0.3 megapascal. The pressure relief valve is now opened. Then the green button, PB1, is pressed. You can see the rod extend. Notice that releasing the green button does not stop the cylinder. Once the first movement has been completed, the red button, PB2, is pressed. You will subsequently see the rod retract. Just like before, releasing the red button does not stop the cylinder. We can repeat this cycle again. Thank you for completing this module on pneumatic training panel, En Ino8747 exercise number 1.
We invite you to continue with exercise number 2.